Okay, we're going to do a couple examples of Punnett squares here. Let me just share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Where is it? All right, so I have 5 examples, and I would suggest following along and maybe even taking notes as you go so that you can practice doing these Punnett squares on your own, because in your assignment in IXL, you're going to be asked to do Punnett squares, and next week we have a whole big Punnett square type of assignment where it's kind of an ongoing thing. So you have to be pretty good at it. So the first one, we're just going to start super simple. Number 1 says cross a heterozygous with a homozygous recessive. So, and it gives it to you here. Heterozygous, remember, it's a lot of vocabulary. So heterozygous means 2 different alleles. Here I have an uppercase or a capital B with a lowercase b. So meaning I have 1 dominant, 1 recessive gene, 2 different alleles. That's why it's heterozygous. And my homozygous recessive, homozygous means the same. So I know that when I look over here, these 2 are going to be the same, and they're going to be lowercase because they are recessive. So recessive is always shown by a lowercase letter. So all I do to find my probability of outcomes of what crosses they would make is I put the mother and the father's genes on the outside, top and left-hand side, and cross them. So it doesn't matter where you put each one. I'll put my heterozygous, wow, this writing is great, and my homozygous recessive on the side. All right, so try my best at handwriting here. And what you do is you drag these down to their appropriate boxes. So this capital B is going to go to each box below it. So they each get a capital B. You get a capital B. Okay, and same here. I'll take this lowercase b and drag it to the corresponding boxes that are below it. So this one gets a lowercase b. This one gets a lowercase b. So I'm done with the top ones. Now on the left-hand side, I do the same thing. I drag these across to the corresponding row. So this one will get a lowercase b, and this one gets a lowercase b as well. I do the same with the bottom row, lowercase b here, drag this across, lowercase b here. All right, so that's my completed Punnett square when I cross a heterozygous with a homozygous recessive. So my possible outcomes, I have 2 here that would show a dominant gene in the heterozygous, and I have 2 that would show a recessive gene, just like one of the other parents. Okay, so I have a 50-50 chance, and we'll get into more details here. How do I scroll? Hi, here, scroll. Oh dear. Clear. All right, let me scroll to the next. Number 2. Okay, we're going to get a little more challenging. So in number 2, it says, in cabbage butterflies, white wings are dominant to yellow wings. So I know if I have an uppercase letter, it's going to represent a white wing. If I have a lowercase letter, it's going to represent yellow, okay? Because dominant always shows over recessive. So if a capital W, lowercase w butterfly is crossed with a lowercase w butterfly, what are the possible genotypes and phenotypes? So we have to know these words as well. So I'm going to take this, I'm lucky it gives it to me already, and I'm going to put them into my Punnett square, and I do not like that. Here we go. So I have a capital W, lowercase, this is lowercase, lowercase. All right, please take notes with me just for your own practice and so that this makes sense as I'm saying it, because the writing on here isn't very good and very clear. So same thing, just like we did with number 1, we cross these. So everyone below this gets a capital W. So here, capital W, here, capital W, Everyone below this W gets a lowercase. So you get lowercase. And then we cross the rows as well. So these two get a lowercase w. And same here. These two get a lowercase w. So this is just like the cross from number 1. We crossed a heterozygous, 2 different alleles, with a homozygous recessive. So this isn't the end, okay? We did the Punnett square, but that's not the end because it says what are the possible genotypes and phenotypes. Genotype refers to your genes, what we can't see. We can't see our genes. We can't see what's in our DNA. So here I'm talking about the possible pairs, okay? So my genotype possibilities, I have 2 possibilities. I have a heterozygous possibility, which is my capital and lowercase. And in that, I have 2 out of 4, right? I have 4 possibilities here. 2 of them came out to be heterozygous. 2 out of 4, or what do we call 2 out of 4? What percentage? 50%. Okay, so there's a 50% possibility of my genes being heterozygous. I need more space here. Move phenotypes. The other possibility is that I have 2 lowercase w's. So my other genotype possibility, ooh, it's rough, okay, is homozygous recessive, and I also have the same 50-50 chance, 2 out of 4 or 50%. Okay, so that's my genotypes. Now my phenotype refers to physical characteristics, okay? So physical characteristics would be what we see, what we can observe just by looking. So what this is going to look like, remember, it says here, white wings are dominant to yellow. So if I have a capital W, it's going to be shown as white. Okay, so here I have white wings. I need to type this actually. All right, this is, oh, it's going to get better. Phenotypes, my physical characteristics. So white, the probability of it being white-winged is again 2 out of 4 or 50%. And the probability of it being yellow, yellow can only show if I have 2 recessive genes or alleles together, and I do have that, again, 50%. Okay, so possible genotypes are here, what my genes would look like. Phenotypes are physical characteristics, what I'm actually going to see when I see the butterfly, 50-50. Okay, so if these 2 types of butterflies crossed, we have a 50% chance of them being white-winged and a 50% chance of them being yellow-winged. All right, let's move on to number 3. Okay, in rabbits, black fur is dominant to white fur. So that's an important thing to know there. Black fur is dominant. So anytime I have a dominant allele, it's going to show as black. And anytime I have a recessive, it's going to show as white. But dominant paired with recessive, dominant always shows. So if you cross a black rabbit, and in this case, the black rabbit is homozygous dominant. Okay, homozygous because they're the same, and dominant because they're both capital letters. They're both dominant alleles. So if I cross one of these with another black rabbit, which is heterozygous because they're different, what are my possible genotypes and phenotypes? So I'm going to put that up here. Here's my homozygous dominant, 2 of the same, and here's my heterozygous. Both of them are black, but you see they can have different pairings of alleles. It's just how we show the dominant one. So same thing with your Punnett square. If you want to, go ahead right now, fill it out as I fill mine out, just to make sure you can do it on your own. Okay, so what we have here when we cross is these are my possible pairings of the alleles. So my possible genotypes, what my genes would look like. I see I have some that are 2 capital Bs. Okay, so this is one possibility. You know what? I'm going to type it. It comes out much better. All right, so capital B, I have 2 of those out of the 4. 2 out of 4, or 50%, right? That would be the possibility of my genes being homozygous dominant. I also have a possibility of them being heterozygous, so capital B, lowercase b, and the same probability, 2 out of 4 or 50%. All right, so these are my possible genotypes. I can either be born homozygous dominant or heterozygous. Now let's talk about phenotypes. When I look at all of these, every single one of them has a dominant gene with it. So there is no possible way that I could, if I'm a rabbit with these types of parents, there's no possible way that I would ever be born with white fur. Because even here, when I have a capital B and a lowercase b, the dominant gene always comes out over the recessive. Okay, so here, black fur, my odds of having black fur are 4 out of 4 or 100%. Okay, and that's it for that one. These are my possible genes, and these are my possible physical characteristics. The only possibility I have is having black fur. All right,